What's going on, everyone? I'm sitting in my office on a wonderful sunny Sunday morning, drinking some coffee out of my processor technology cup. It's time to review the open tabs that I have from this week. Most of these I throw out. 99% get thrown out, get read, and they're okay. But some of them make an impression on me, and I want to share them. So without further ado, let's go to the screen and sort through just a few of the really good things that I read, saw, tried this week, or one of them planned to try next week. One of my favorite kind of financial websites is 4 Pillar Freedom. I've been reading it for a few months, and one of the things I've played around with the most is the savings goal calculator. I've been interested in like the FIRE movement or the Fat FIRE movement, or all of these early retirement or redistributing retirement throughout life kind of movements that have been gaining popularity. And this is something that can help you kind of start building an intuition for how much money you have to save, how long you have to work, what your money needs to compound at to do some of these early retirement things that you might be thinking about. Just a very quick calculation that's kind of missing here is it's generally considered a 4% safe withdrawal rate will let you retire more or less indefinitely if you're willing to be a tiny bit flexible in economic downturns. So basically you multiply whatever you want to make per year times 25. This doesn't take into account inflation, but don't worry about it. Let's say I want to make 50, I can basically live on 50 grand indefinitely. I'll multiply that times 25. That gives me 1.25 million. That's how much I want to save for retirement, let's say. It's just an example, everybody relax. Say you've been contributing to your 401k for a few years, that's 50 grand sort of in the bank. You save another 45 each year because now you have a high paying tech job and you're maxing out your 401k and adding another 35-ish thousand a year. 25-ish a year. And you make a conservative 7% per year after inflation. We'll say it's conservative. That means you need to work 15 more years and save at this rate, and then you're retired forever, making 50 grand a year off of your investments, or able to sell 50 grand a year of your investments to live on. Calculators like this are great for building an intuition. I love it. I recommend you play around with this. There you go. 10 algorithms every computer science student must implement at least once in life. I think this is such a wonderful post because it's not about, I feel like in our horrific tech end times, data structures and algorithms, why would you need to learn that? Oh, it's for passing FANG interviews, right? It's for getting into a giant soul-sucking megacorp. That's the only good reason to study data structures and algorithms. Well, this helps support my attitude, which is, computing should be fun and interesting, and that's a good enough reason to do it. In fact, you'll probably get much better than someone at these skills if you actually enjoy what you're doing and do it out of curiosity. There's reasons to study this just because it's cool. Like implementing a plagiarism detection algorithm is just freaking cool and interesting. Like it doesn't matter that it won't be on some kind of coding interview so that you can like invade billions of people's privacy. Like it doesn't matter. By the way, nothing against you. Whatever choices you make are fine. It's just this weird type A like test taking mentality. Oh, I just gotta memorize stuff so I can get a great high paying tech job so I can become crushingly unhappy 5 years later is dumb. Like that's not a good reason to get into tech, and it's not a good reason to study algorithms. It's not a good reason to do anything unless you're starving, need cash in the short term, but then you have no illusions about why you're doing it. Anyway, here's some cool things to implement. Music search with Fourier transforms, that's cool. Rolling your own crypto, which you should never ever use yourself, of course, but just to understand crypto, excellent idea. Red-black trees. This one, I don't know. Steve Yege told me to use AVL trees instead, so I'm just gonna blindly follow his advice because following Steve Yege's advice seems like a good idea. A new internet protocol. Think of something that isn't the World Wide Web. And Gopher, I guess, which is sort of still alive, I think. Gemini. The reason I don't link just to the project site where you can find out like where to get a client and compile your own client is there's such an interesting discussion here. Anytime you get a tech nostalgic thing going, I feel like Hacker News is a great place to read discussion about it, because so many of these like OG hackers from the 90s and even before
in the dark days. No, I'm just kidding. Are out here, retired, writing about stuff, browsing this on a Sunday morning. And it's worth browsing just for little comments like this from Netcat. It's great. Rules of thumb for a 1x developer. I am not a Genius Ninja 10x developer. I'm not sure those exist. Although, no, I do work with some 10x developers. And the crazy thing is working with them, they don't think they're 10x developers. They just think they're developers and they write some code. It just happens to go really fast, work really well, be really readable, work more or less on the first approach because they have so much experience. And they make you feel like you can write that code too, and you can understand it as they write it. It's wonderful. But I'm a 1x developer, and heuristics and kind of rules for more experienced people are a good way to learn and a good way to kind of build your intuition without having to pay all the price of experience. You'll get that experience over the long term, but this is a good way to kind of jumpstart your ability. Code Complete is a book like that, kind of jumpstarts a lot of your intuition for you. The way, maybe like a little baby gets its immune system jump-started. There's a bunch of stuff in here. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but it's all pretty good advice for new people. Specifically, learning on, just as an example, focus your learning time on things that compound. Compounding is one of those things that I think is really useful to... I don't know if you can ever truly build an intuition for compounding. I don't know if our brains have the kind of wiring to do that, but compounding is one of those things that building an intuition for the fact that you don't have an intuition for compounding problems and being able to recognize those when they show up in your life, like in investing or using your time to build core skills or foundational skills, is useful because compounding is so incredibly powerful that if you can get it right and compound the right skills or get the right sort of base skills to compound, you can seemingly suddenly, go leaps and bounds kind of above the competition in terms of learning, in terms of achievement, because you've started compounding the right things. It starts slow and then suddenly seems, kind of exponential. Another interesting thing for kind of building wealth and what to do with all that cash from your tech career working at your massive FANG company because you memorize data structures and algorithms so good, like a good little boy or girl. Well, building long-term wealth, one of the kind of time-tested strategies, especially in the United States, is real estate investing. The fact is that many of our tax laws have been written by the richest people in history in this country. Many of them, almost all of them, have been landowners, kind of rent-seeking landowners of some kind, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. You can be a slumlord, or you can help people have safe, reasonably affordable housing without squeezing them. And that's kind of how I look at this. It is an extremely tax advantaged. The system is trying to make you rich in this way. If you can get enough capital to start getting into real estate investing, buying properties, renting them out or selling them, fixing them up, adding value somehow, managing them, is a good way for people with high cash flow to compound that cash flow, to turn a little bit of money over into a lot more money over time. And just kind of our society, our rules, our tax system, everything is kind of set up to help you do this quite easily if you're middle class, well-paid professional, like your doctor, lawyer, tech employee, etc. These are the common strategies. You can kind of find one that speaks to you, speaks to your interests, your skill set, your network of contacts. Do you know a bunch of contractors? Well, then BRRR or live in flipping or any kind of repair value adding might be for you. There's a bunch of kind of strategies here, and it's a good survey of what's out there for real estate investing right now. Why did you leave the tech industry? In a time where every politician seemingly is saying nonsensical things like, everyone should learn to code, without even understanding what they're saying or what that means or what coding and programming are or anything. And in a time where tech careers are held up as this weird end-all be-all, oh, they're so privileged, even though, city bus drivers often make salaries that rival us. not to mention doctors, lawyers, or what I would say are the true professionals, professional class traditionally. Whatever, we're like the redheaded stepchild of society. Tech workers and millennials. If you're a millennial tech worker, even worse. Everything is your fault, according to everyone. But basically, it's not a perfect career. You get into this thing, and it's held up as, the answer to all your problems, so much money, it's so wonderful, but it is a career, a job like any other. If you work for a company, you're an employee like any other employee. Yes, there are some perks. Yes, there are some drawbacks, but it's like anything else. Sometimes I think seeing this all through rose-colored glasses can help you make very bad decisions. And to balance that out, I'm not trying to encourage anyone's, if you're feeling burned out, maybe don't read this, because tech is a great career to be in. I truly believe that, which is why this entire channel is dedicated to motivating and educating people to get into it. But look at this in a balanced way. Look at the downsides. Read through this. Read through some of the issues people have had, some of the downsides that they have found, so that you don't have to kind of gain that knowledge and experience the hard way. If you think of something as perfect, you're going to be very shocked to find when it's not perfect. But if you go into it kind of with your eyes open, knowing that there are drawbacks and downsides, then you'll probably just end up being a lot happier because you won't be so surprised when it's not, everything is not perfect, but they said it would be. Finally, a game I'm going to start playing this week, Cataclysm: Dark Days Ahead. I've heard so much positive discussion about this all over the place. And it seems to be an interesting concept, post-apocalyptic. I love it. I'm going to play some of this. If you have played it, let me know if you like it in the comments. And if you have any cool links, then do leave them in the comments. Sort of Reddit rules apply. See y'all, I guess, Thursday. Later.